disappointed in the outcome. There's no denying that. We made entirely too many mistakes, had too many costly penalties and inopportune times in the game, and we missed entirely too many tackles. We couldn't sustain any momentum. That once we got it on our side, we couldn't hold it. I thought offensively we were very poor on first down efficiency in the first half especially. I didn't think we matched their physicality, both inside and out on the edge, on the perimeter blocking. We had 3 costly penalties, and we had some opportunities and we couldn't capitalize on them. We all got to get better. We got to help grow these players up quick. We got a lot of inexperience at times, and it shows. But it's on all of us to put them in a position to play fast, and it starts with me. Defensively, thought our defense kept us in the game, especially in the first 3 quarters. We scored on defense, created some momentum, gave us a chance, but they were on the field entirely too long. Our defense was. We had too many missed tackles, more than I can remember of the past. We had a couple critical third down penalties that kept drives alive, and we just couldn't overcome it. And I thought special teams, we didn't do anything special to impact the game. I do think that there was a bright spot there with 2 nice punt returns with Traylon Burks. That was promising. We had a chance to come away with points right before half and couldn't capitalize on that. But we all got to respond, and that's what this is about. That's what it was about yesterday when these guys come in here. It was about after the game. It starts with me, and it truly is about a response. We've got a very much improved Colorado State team from a year ago coming in this Saturday. We know we're going to get their best shot. But with five offensive and 6 defensive returners back, they got a lot of experience coming back. But as I say each and every week, it's more about us. It's more about how we play than who we play, and correcting the mistakes from last Saturday and responding the right way. And that's what we're going to do. So with that, I'll go.
Chad, you got Nick Starkle listed as
Welcome in. It's our Monday edition of On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio, coming here live on KDSJ 479. And it's our 30-minute editions, as we like to do a 30-minute recap of the past weekend's game and also look ahead. And it's been official. It's come out. Nick Starkle, junior quarterback, will be the starting quarterback this Saturday versus the Colorado State Rams. That's the only depth chart change, and also to make a note that Ricky Stromborg, the true freshman left guard, will be starting his second collegiate football game for the Arkansas Razorbacks. Outside of that, everything seems to be normal. You will be without, as we all know, Dorian Gerald. Comes out also to noted that Jamario Bell may also miss his second game due to lingering knee injury that he's, that they feel like he'll be back next week. Also, too, I believe Jordan Jones will be a young man that's due to report back to the team in his full capacity. I think he's just roughly about a week or so away. But Nick Starkle gets the starting spot, and I know Demetrius, when I say that, I tweeted it out when we were in the press conference, and you can just tell the excitement from the fan base, because I felt like if Chad had named Ben Hicks the starting quarterback, that would not have been a good situation at all.
Yeah, I definitely think he would have had some pushback.
When you think about it, and some of his explanation, I think we have a clip that I pulled up, but I'll have here momentarily. But you just had to realize, and just being down at the game, and we were at field level, the thing that I noticed when Nick was able to was inserted into the ball game, he got the ball out of his hands a lot quicker. It seemed to have more of an up-tempo. They start to kind of get into a rhythm. And the thing that I think is really needed for Arkansas to get their running game established, with Nick being able to have the threat of pushing the ball downfield to get those 8 defenders out of the box. Because when you have no deep, there's no threat. Arkansas has multiple options to go deep with the ball. Mike Woods, Coylin, Traylon, Davion. But when when you're not able to establish that run or just have the threat of getting deep with someone that can make those type of throws, because I think that's what's been the big missing ingredient in the initial two games from the quarterback spot. There's been no true threat to stretch the field. You know, there was a play I believe in the first quarter with TQ Jackson, another true freshman. That's this class is they're learning on the go. He beats his man on the go route. Ben Hicks does not have the arm strength. I mean, the young man had to kind of adjust and come back to the ball, and you just can't have that when you have guys, of that size that can stretch the field. Because I'm a firm believer in the guys, people that listen or watch our show each and every day. You've heard me say you have to be good in the box to get good over the top, and I don't think Arkansas has been good over the top. And you could tell, Demetrius, when Nick came into the game, there was a distinct difference in just the flow of that offense.
Yeah, it was a huge momentum swing, and I think just energy around. Like guys were they just seemed to have an extra burst, a step, and the receivers just didn't look like they were running through the routes. They kind of looked like they were going full speed. So I just found that interesting, the difference between the way the players reacted when Nick was there. And then, one thing I have to comment that I really didn't like, I just didn't like the body language of Ben Hicks on the sideline once Nick Starkel got in. I seen Nick, supporting Ben, clapping him on when things did go successful for Ben, but I didn't see that reciprocation from Ben going on to Nick Starkel when he went out there to play.
Right, and I think that's some things that, when you leave the stadium as a fan or somebody that's scared with the team, yes, they are having some very rough times. They've lost, I believe, 9 consecutive conference games under Chad. But you also see that this team is going through the maturation process. I mean, there's a lot of youth being played on this football team on both sides of the ball and even in special teams, and that's not to make any excuse for the way things turned out on Saturday. I mean, make the note that we're not here to make excuses, but it is a stone cold reality, people and fans. This is a very young football team. I mean, I went back and I watched the tape of the ball game. I watched it Sunday at 3 o'clock, Sunday at 3 o'clock in the morning, then Sunday again at probably 11 or 12. And the young man, Greg Brooks, this is a guy that I know is going to be very good for this football team. But defensively, when you talk about the completion rate that they were able to have success with his particular individual receiver, I mean, that it is kind of tough to take. But at the end of the day, you don't like it, but let's just face it. This is a team that is young, and they're going to have moments where they're going to flash, and then they're going to have moments where it's not going to look so good.
Definitely, Greg Brooks did struggle a lot that night. I was expecting Chief to kind of substitute somebody in there to kind of give him a breather, because if you look, there wasn't a lot of substitution in on that back end. I think Fouché maybe played the whole game. I think Cameron Curl about played the whole game. So I'm still expecting to see a little bit more rotation. I was expecting to see Devon McClure kind of go out there where Greg Brooks was playing that hybrid nickel. That was where he played last year, and I think that would have been a kind of better matchup on that defensive side, because there was definitely a height disadvantage with Greg Brooks versus the Ole Miss receiver. So, I think it's just a little thing. I think the coaching staffs are still trying to figure out what's going on, and with the young personnel, because they have to play these younger guys, and I think they're still trying to figure out what they can get out of these guys.
And I believe, there's certain at times these coaches still yet are coaching them up. I think, when you're a freshman, it's one thing to go to rep it in a practice. It's one thing to come in early and rep it in spring ball, but there's nothing that can teach you the speed of the game until you actually get out there and you're doing it. And I know fans and even myself, and sometimes we as media, well, it's easy. I mean, it's a lot going on out there from play to play, second to second in a football game, especially for a true freshman that you're going to experience. And I know with Arkansas as the season goes on, you'll see more Jalen Catalon. You'll see more Devin Bush. I saw that Devin and Jalen got out for a couple of plays, and you don't want to, waste a quarter or on that type of stuff. So I think you're going to need a deeper secondary. I thought for the most part, overall, the defense played a fairly winnable ball game. If you take a couple of plays, the call touchdown, you take away the misdirected pass that went to Mike Woods that should have gone to Traylon Burks. I mean, think about those plays. You have a touchdown. There was another busted play. I think that early in the game had been caught C.J. O'Grady. There's another touchdown. He missed a touchdown with Debois Whaley. So it's not that they're not, executing to a high level. It's just that certain important parts of the game, both offensively and defensively, it's just not clicking. And I have to attribute that to just the maturation process. They're playing so many young kids, new offensive line starters. And I think with Nick Starkel coming into this rotation as a starting quarterback, I think you'll start to see more continuity.
Yeah, I just hope we don't see the same result as last year, because as of right now, we're going down exactly the same timeline. When you think about the first 3 games, you have Ty Storey start. Then the second game, you have Ty Storey start again, and then you have what's Steamboat name from last year? Cole Kelly come in, and then Cole Kelly gets to start for Colorado State, and they go down there. So, to me, I feel like I'm having deja vu or backflash and seeing the same thing kind of play out from last year. So I'm just hoping that Chad really understands the decisions that he's making and he's willing to live with them, because right now you have a really frantic fan base right now. A lot of guys went down in Ole Miss thinking they were going to win, and I think if these guys can't come back and respond, because that's what the key word was that Chad kept saying all after the press conference. He kept saying it's not about us losing that one game, it's about how we respond. And I'm telling you, if these guys don't respond the right way, that locker room could get very, very, very hectic and infectious, because you have a lot of senior guys that think, and I said keyword, that think they should be in the NFL next year, and it's gonna be some ruckus if we don't win that next game.
I'm about how do you play. I mean, and I'm of the belief a player needs not complain if he's not doing what he needs to do. I mean, you can't expect the next man, or anybody for that matter, be it in business or whatever, to do what you're not doing. I just feel like it's a lot better than it was last year. When you really break these 2 games down, there's not been a lack of effort. There's been some mistakes, not a lack of execution. That you could just tell it's about the youth on this football team.
I don't know.
Being so young.
I don't know, Pat. It might be still a little bit of,
and it has to be coaching. I mean, and you think about this, Nick Starkel. This is a guy that hadn't played a football game under center in a year and a half.
Right.
So he's still learning. He's getting back into things, and I think you come back and you throw that play. They've repped that play to Traylon Burks 1,000 times, and it was just a mistake. He went and he threw it to the left side, hence which was the understanding when CJ. I could understand why he was looking right. Traylon Burks, a lot of people may not realize, he's an ambidextrous football player and had some quarterback in his younger days. So you had to know that there was something that was just not right, and it was confirmed that it should have gone right to Traylon. If it goes right to Traylon, I mean, he was butt naked open on that play. I mean, CJ could have went straight down the field.
There were moments in that game, I was standing right by the sideline, so I had the privilege of seeing the coaches' reactions, the player reactions, the responses to every part of that game. And there was times where receivers didn't even go. I hate to just call out names, but there was distinctive one play at the beginning of the third quarter where Chase Harrell went out there and lined up, and we had to waste a timeout at the beginning of the quarter because we didn't know how to line up. Those are things that we can't afford to do, even with the inexperience that we have. I think right now we're getting in a must-win season or that must-win mentality, because when you look at the rest of our schedule, getting into this SEC conference, there's not a lot of games that people are or Vegas is even going to have us high and winning. So I think we can't afford to have those mental errors and those little just ticky-tack fouls throughout the game. We have to play a clean game. And another comment I have to make, I've been saying this all year. I said if Arkansas can't score 30-plus points every game, it's going to be a long game. I understand we do have a lot of experience on that back end of the defense, and we thought we had a good pass rush, but I think it's crucial that the offense must score 30 points every game to even be considered winning the SEC game this year.
I have to think that they left at least 17 on the football field. I think about the 2 pass plays that like I said, could have gone to Dev Wall, air passes. He gets one in the first quarter. It's an underthrown wheel route, so he catches it and falls down. And then the one right before half that would have tied the game up 10-10. He's wide open down the middle of the field. There's an overthrow. You get a touchdown call back. And the good thing about that is that the freshman Traylon Burks owned up to that. It come to find out that it was a play that he covered up the eligible receiver in Trey, which was a great call. I mean, there was a lot of little things that left points. You missed the field goal by Connor Lippert. There's another 3 points. Like I said, the defense, they played well enough, but when you're on the field entirely, for most of the entire latter part of the second quarter and a lot of the second half, you're going to start, wilting. They played championship defense. I mean, they gave up those. I think those were tired 14 points there at the latter part of the game.
I can't even say
see
that.
a lot of growth still yet with this football team.
I can't even say it was due to fatigue, because there was one. I remember after the touchdown Cameron Curl scored, he got the fumble. They went right back and let them score maybe 2 plays later. You can't have
down the initial because you have to go back. The lack of it, you got to get more bodies in that secondary. You can't, and I'm of the belief you can't chase receivers all over the field and line up with the same 5. And you're rotating wide receivers. At some point, you have to build depth in that back end. And I thought the secondary played a lot. There wasn't a lot of rotation, and those guys, they just wore down. I mean, you can't ask 5 guys to play a full 45 minutes to an hour, and it's an up tempo pace, and they're chasing wide receivers. They're not switching off. They were running with their receivers and having to get back. I mean, Rich Rod is a veteran coach, a veteran offensive coordinator, and what he did was speed the pace up, keep fresh receivers in there, and as a result, I felt like the team, just wore down. And the simple fact, I mean, let's come to realization that I go back to that. There was 4 true freshmen on that defensive line, and you don't want to hear it. It didn't look good, but I'm of the belief I'm going to be patient with this team. Yes, I get frustrated from the media standpoint, but I'm realizing they are playing a very young football team, and they're going to get better. And, Chad said it best. Whatever those results are, each and every week, if there's growth, then you live with them and you build on them. But, the more freshmen play, this is a very young team, and the more these guys continue to stay positive. Because when you listen to a lot of the younger guys, there's a lot of positiveness still left in this football team. There was a lot of young kids. Isaiah Nichols, I thought, being a redshirt freshman, I thought from the D-tackle position, you have to feel good about the future with that young man. I was able to see John Marshall made a lot of good plays. Running in between the tackles was tough sledding. It just seemed like when they got out there to those inexperienced ends, and that's just going to take time. You look at Colin Clay, another young man that's getting his first collegiate experience on the road in the SEC, as they weren't able to get him in game 1. And you can't prepare yourself for that. You can talk about it, but when you're a freshman, your adrenaline's flowing. Colin will get better from this weekend, as will that football team. It's just they're learning a lot of hard lessons. We saw this back with the Joe Adams football team as they grew up and had to learn in the process. So it's a tough one, but like I said, if you go back and you really look at that, it's 10-3 midway in the third quarter. So you always felt like Arkansas had a chance to win, just wasn't able to make the key plays that they had to make.
Yeah, again, I'm just going back to the coaching decisions, man. There were just a couple of, I don't know. I just really wasn't comfortable with the play calling. There was times where I felt like we were stringing things together and we just called. It was just dumb, boneheaded play calls. Because, like Pat, I honestly can't blame this loss on the players. When I look at the mental mistakes that happen on the field, that wasn't what cost us. To me, it was the personnel that cost us, and to me, that's a coaching thing. If your coaches aren't aware and understand that these corners can't play the whole game without subbing anybody out, that's a coaching thing. That's not a player thing.
I mean, and to be honest with you, we got to get more at the running back. I mean, I'm going to tell you, Raheem Boyd cannot take every single snap, which what he's had to do the previous 2 games. You got to find a way to get Devois going. You got to find a way to get Chase Harrell. And I think it's about that time that you get Monte Spivey ready. If you think in the SEC and for the remainder of these next 10 games that you're going to play one running back, you're not running the ball. And I'll be lucky if Raheem Boyd made game 8, if he's the only one. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, Saturday, he's the one I saw run with conviction. I mean, let's just be blatantly honest. I mean, you've got to get more from 2 other guys that's played at that position. And I understand we talk about development, and I see these guys getting better, but the older guys that need to make plays for this football team have to step up and make plays. When you need a Scooter Harris and it's 10-3, 10-7, and you need a stop, you just scored a touchdown, you got to have your playmakers make plays. And right now, the guys that you expect to make the plays just aren't making the plays. And when you're relying on the younger talent, there's going to be a drop off, and hence there's going to be a lot of
You're right.
missed assignments. I mean, you expect the older guys that's been here and played the football, and that's just so far we're talking about the young guys making plays.
Right, but we knew that coming into this season. We spoke on how we got 50-something freshmen, we got 11 that's poised to play. It's to me it's all about understanding what you have and knowing what you have, and then playing to the strength. To me, the coaches still have to play to the strengths. I understand that they have a scheme. I understand that they want to do certain things as a team and as an identity. But good coaches, no, let me scratch that. Great coaches are going to adapt to the players that they have. If you know you don't have these players on your roster currently, then what are you going to do? Oh, just say, we're going to keep recruiting. We're going to keep recruiting. We're going to keep recruiting.
I really think with Nick Starkel going to starting quarterback, I think you're going to really see a difference in this offense. When you have a guy that can hit the deep ball, the threat of being able to hit the deep ball is going to back those linebackers up. There won't be such a rush when when you're not respecting the pass, you're going to put 8 in the box, and hence it's going to be tough. And I will be in defense, say things in defense of Dev Warren, Chase, and the running backs. 8 in the box, and you don't respect the pass. It's kind of hard to get really, really meaningful yards, but you could tell that there was a difference when Nick came in. The pass rush, they were able to
Absolutely.
start getting those quicker routes. Getting rid of the ball. And you didn't see such a heavy rush. I think if Nick Starkel would have got in the second quarter, I believe we could have been talking about a different outcome.
I have to agree. I think really what's stopping the run game is they don't respect the RPO. And that's really what we're basing our run game out of.
We've always talked about that. You got to get bigger. You got to get meaner offensive
linemen. Of course.
Offensive lineman, to me, you got to have some backside on you when you walk out there, because that's where you get your push.
But bro, I honestly can't say that the offensive line just played trash. Yeah, they could have been more physical, but to me, it was that from an offensive scheme, we didn't do what we needed to do. Because to me, I said that this was a comment I made that Friday. I said, I hope Arkansas doesn't go in trying to force the run, because Rakeem had a great game last year. And I still felt this coaching staff went into this game thinking they were going to dominate on the offensive line, and they were just going to play smash mouth football, and Rakeem was going to have a 100 to 200-yard game. I firmly believe that's what the coaches thought. And I told you, Pat, I said, no, that's not going to work this year, because Ole Miss is going to scheme specifically for Rakeem. I said that right before the game. They're going to scheme specifically for Rakeem. So the coaches have to be a little smarter than what they did. And I actually like what they did the first play call of the game. They came out with a play action. It didn't work. But if you look at it, you can't tell me 5 other plays where they tried to play action. They went away from the play action. And that, to me, was the bread and butter. You can't run the RPO and then just run plays out of shotgun. We didn't even establish the run, and that's what I mean. I don't understand the play calling from these coaches. They didn't run a good, organized, schematic offense. It just the plays that they ran back to back didn't make sense.
Right.
We would do
They had a few of those negative plays.
We would do a wildcat. We would do a double reverse. We had that's what I mean.
That one that they misblocked, I believe, one of the wildcats in the lost yardage. I think there was supposed to be a mesh point, and they just didn't read it. Which, like I said, I hate to keep harping on it, but you're talking about when you look at the depth chart for this weekend, there's only 2 senior starters on the top 11 at the depth. These are guys that they're learning, and you hate to keep talking about it, and I know listeners hate to keep hearing us talk about it in the media about the maturation, but this is just a process you're going to have to go with the seniors that you're playing on both sides of the ball in your depth chart. You don't have the numbers. 2 are starting for you on your offense.
True.
2 are starting for you on your offense, and that's at left tackle and at tight end. So you're talking about a whole new 2 freshmen and a sophomore at your wide receiver. You're talking about sophomores and 2 freshmen at your guards, a junior. You're talking about a junior quarterback, a junior running back. So there is just a lot of maturation. You're talking about your quarterback that's going to step in, hadn't started a game, and we go back to a year and a half at Texas A&M. So you're going to have to just realize, Arkansas fans, try to see improvement and steps to take each and every week. Eventually the cloud is going to go away, and there's a lot of sun to be shined upon this program with the youth you have. You got to feel good about the young talent, and you're going to get more out of Devois Whaley. I have no doubt in my mind. I think this offensive line will continue to grow with each and every game that they get. I think you'll see If I'm Chad, Devois has some wide receiver in his background, having grown up in Texas football, youth football, and on up. You get him in the passing game, because like I said, if you hit those two plays, Devois has 2 touchdowns receiving in that game. They just can't seem to click, but like I said, that's due, I think, mostly to youth and experience, and you're going to have to grow.
But, I know we keep talking about players, and, I'm all about the coaches can't afford to have a bad game knowing that you have youth. We know, Pat, that we have young, inexperienced players. We got that. They're not going to get any older this year. They're not going to all of a sudden become juniors this year in their freshman year. So we have to stop using their inexperience and lack of game experience as an excuse. And that's why I keep still pointing the finger back to the coaches. These coaches understand that they're freshmen. So they have to put these kids in the best possible situation. These coaches have to come up with the best possible game plan too as well.
I thought outside of a couple of plays offensively, it was a fairly well-called football game. Offensively, I think once the change was made to Ben Starkville, I think that's the only thing that I had the biggest problem with. Is I thought Nick should have been in the game after the first quarter. I mean, they only had 46 yards, but I really do, and I feel with a lot of conviction in saying this, is I think you'll see a more wide open offensive attack, having the type of quarterback in Nick Starkville, because at the end of the day, he has played in the SEC. He's used to playing with talented wide receivers and running backs in the same backfield as well. So I think they'll get into a more rhythm. And you've heard me say it throughout fall camp, Demetrius. It's about winning the team. It's about winning the confidence from not only your offense but your defensive side of football. And you could just tell when you were down there, the whole sideline with Nick Starkville as quarterback, they play with a little more oomph. Now you put him in there in the second quarter with a defense that was playing really good football. They're scoring points, your morale, and even when you're tired, you have that extra energy. I truly think that's going to be a different football game, and I'm really anxious to see how this team will respond, because like you said, you made a good point. Chad did say about responding. How will they respond as a team having a starting quarterback that I feel galvanizes the ball club?
Yeah, I do think Starkville brings edge on the offense that we really desperately need. One thing that I really did like is that even when I seen him under duress at that quarterback position, he kept his eyes downfield, and he didn't get pocket happy where he felt a little pressure and was so quick to dip out the pocket. So to me, that shows that he has a trust in his offensive line, and I think again, if that quarterback can have trust in his offensive line just to play his game, I think we are going to see it better. But the last thing I will say is we're going to have to get more out of Cheyenne O'Grady too. There was times in that game where I felt like his fatigue lagged.
Ben Hicks missed him several times, and I'm still not 100% sold on the non-targeting penalty. I still think that there should have been some type of targeting, but officials, they do what they do. But I just felt like they should have done a lot more in that game. And you're right, Demetrius. I mean, I think you'll see more Cheyenne O'Grady going forward with this football team offensively. He was open several times I saw on the end cuts, and Ben, just missed him. I know he missed him for a touchdown early in that first quarter. He would have been a great weapon to have. And I think, Nick Starkville, made a great point in his post-game press conference on Saturday night by saying, his job is not to be the star. His job is to get the ball to the playmakers and let them make plays. And I think that's going to resonate throughout the entire offense. But we're going to play a real quick clip. There was a question posed to Chad Morris about why he chose Nick Starkville as this weekend starter. And we had some excerpts, and this is what Coach Mo had to say.
I thought the ball came out of his hand quick, which helped the pass protection up front. We did let him get hit. After the ball was released too much, we got to keep him clean, especially in the fourth quarter. There was the one sack that he did not have a chance to get the ball out and throw it away. But the one thing I did see the ball came out of his hand quick, and I thought at that point you kind of saw Ole Miss kind of back off a little bit and give us some underneath stuff, and and loosen some things up.
Okay, over there, TJ, powerhouse.
Welcome back. Welcome back. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins Sports Talk Radio. It's our Monday 30-minute edition of On the Hill as we recap this past weekend's ball game versus the Ole Miss Rebels, and we look ahead to this weekend's, I believe, 3 p.m. kickoff in Donald W. Reynolds Razorback Stadium versus Colorado State. And real quick before we close this thing out, Demetrius, as we'll have much more throughout the week from Coach John Chavis. We'll hear what he had to say about the performance of his defense this past Saturday. Also, too, Coach Joe Craddock, offensive coordinator. We talked to him a little bit about it. You're here, his reasonings for going with Nick Starkel as the week progresses on. But just to make a note, 6 offensive starters on offense, 5 will be returning on defense. So you have 11 of your 22 from this Colorado State team of last year. Plus, it came to my understanding that Colin Hill got hurt last year and was the starting quarterback last year. That red shirt is going to be back with this football team. And this is a big guy, 6'4", 227 pounds. He's not going to be an easy guy. This is a potential professional quarterback that Arkansas will be facing when the Rams come to Fayetteville. So this is going to be yet another big test for this football team. And really, I think the biggest test for the seniors. I think this is a game where the seniors are really going to have to put their imprint on this football game, not only this week, but weeks leading on, but never more so than putting their imprint on this ball game, because it has to start from the top of it. And your seniors, I've always been taught, seniors got to pull and everybody else got to push. And I think that's what you have to have. But we're going to wrap up today's 30-minute broadcast. We'll be back with much, much more. In tomorrow's show, we'll have more guests. We're going to talk football, and more football when we return tomorrow. But from our producer, Demetrius Johnson, and myself, Pat Jenkins, to all our viewers and listeners, we'll catch you tomorrow. I also want to give a shout-out before we go. Our sponsors, we'd be remiss not to give them love. Lindsay & Associates, with an office location in Fayetteville, an office location also, too, in Rogers. Locomotion, it's located just below the Northwest Arkansas Mall in Fayetteville. Corey Beck's Custom Painting. And our newest, and a real good sponsor, KDK's Chicken, located at 989 Razorback Road. Go down and see Keith, Kathy, and I'm pretty sure they got a lot of love in those places. And like they always tell you, it's not your mama's. That's going to wrap it up for the show today. We'll be back tomorrow. It's On the Hill with Pat Jenkins on KDSJ 479. You guys have a blessed one, and let's get it.
Baby God.